last week on the Al Nicoletti Show. Joey, my man, welcome to the Al Nicoletti Show, brother. What are you finding that are some of the creative strategies people are using in today's market?
Seller financing is always going to be there. There's always people with problems that you can solve that's an option that can be that piece that's missing. And I always say, most people say cash is king. I always say what the cash can get them is king. If you can solve, 10 steps ahead instead of just that one initial step, that's where that comes into play.
There's some people that are doing it, they're getting that permission or the right way, but then there's people that don't know the rules. So what have you seen out there that have been bad practices?
Not disclosing the risk on your side to the seller, not disclosing the risk of the seller to the seller. And a lot of times it's as simple as let the bank know what you're doing. If all those disclosures aren't in play and all sides don't understand the risk that's involved, it's just going to create a harder conversation down the line if something does happen. If you don't get an extra step of disclosures signed that basically in writing says that the seller is not going to declare bankruptcy after you take over the subject to deal, don't do it.
What would you say has been some of the best advice that you've heard or been given that has helped you get to where you are?
Use what you have to get what you need to get what you want. And just use that thought process when going into deals. That kind of helps you solve those 10 steps ahead and create the situation that the seller wants to see to get out of that situation.
All right, everybody, here we go. Another Wednesday night, 9 p.m. in the studio. And if you missed any of that episode last week, you got to go back, watch it, check it out. There's always so much value that is jam-packed in these episodes that can help change your business and your game and really provide a perspective that other people are going through in this market. So go back, check that out. And if you want more content on the Al Nicoletti Show, scan the QR code at the top of the screen. You're going to get our link tree with all of our content from YouTube, social media, and of course, you're going to find the videos on probates, quiet titles, partitions, all that crazy, messy stuff that people are finding out there. You don't want to miss all of that. We're always dropping reels and short form videos, so check that out. And tonight, I am super happy to have a great guest come in the studio. My guy, Jared Prevost. Jared is doing amazing things over in the Tampa St. Pete market, and I love what he's doing, the hard money lending, and getting into deals, and it's really helping the community over there. So I'm excited to bring Jared on. I got my pen and paper, and let's rock this thing. Hey, everybody. My name is Al Nicoletti. I'm an attorney here in Florida, and welcome to the Al Nicoletti Show, where I bring on real estate super investors, rising rock stars, movers and shakers, and leaders of clubs in their communities that educate, entertain, and inspire all things on Florida real estate and bring in the best in the game, no matter what markets they're in. Whether they're in Florida, another state, California, Ohio, maybe it's a local market. We want to bring on the best people that can help you take your company to the next level. On my show today, I got my good friend and guy, this investor over out in the St. Pete, Tampa area, Jared Prevost. Jared is getting into hard money lending, doing deals, running a community meetup with Nick Camrata, and doing so many great things over in that area and bringing people together. And I love the kind of value and information Jared brings to this game because we always want to provide guests that can give you that perspective on the ground level and what's going on in the meetups as well. It's all about the power of networking, and there's nothing like bringing a guest like Jared on. So without further ado, let's welcome him to the show. Jared, brother, we did it, man.
I'm here, bro. And after seeing all these names on your intro, I was like, man, you are bringing on rock stars. All right, let's run it.
We're bringing them on. And, you're a rock star, Jared, because we want to bring people like you on the show that can provide the value and the experience that you bring and what you're seeing from other people that you're networking with, deals that you're doing. Nothing's like the experience of being in the game. And also not just being in the deals itself, but also on the lending side as well. And because you can see so much of the market changing when you're getting into that side. So before we dive in a little bit, just give everybody a bit of perspective. How did you get into this game? What was that journey like for Jared?
Yeah, well, it's funny. You mentioned Nick Camrata earlier. So that's the reason I'm in Florida. If you ask anyone that I grew up with, they would not believe that I moved to Florida. I think I was one of those people in the Midwest that would make fun of anything Florida, right? So I came down a little bit after I graduated college to join Nick wholesaling. And what's actually really funny, Al, is I remember when Nick was like still fairly early on in his journey, maybe like 2 or 3 years into real estate. And I remember right when I got down there, just some moments in our office of him just being like pissed at how bad his probate attorney was. And that's how we found you. So I was like there from the start with that. So I worked for Nick for about a year and a half doing acquisitions, being the guy driving out to appointments, locking up contracts, all that type of stuff. And for me, it was like, hey, I wanted something that was more relational focused and honestly, like a little bit more where I could provide coaching, advice, build relationships long term, which with sellers, did you do one deal with them and then boom, on to the next, right?
Yeah.
So I bought a deal, a wholesale deal, and then went off and tried to start my own wholesaling business virtually. And then I lost like 20 grand on my first flip. And then that's how I got into hard money lending. It's like, dang, bro, I don't want to wholesale anymore. And I need something that is a better fit for my superpower, which is communication, including bringing community together, coaching, helping other people, and something more relational focused. And that's how I got into lending.
Yeah, and that's very interesting too, because there's people that do wholesaling and then they do their first deal and then they're off running, right?
Mm-hmm.
But everybody goes through a different experience, and like you said, you're like, I don't want to do that. I want to get more into this lending side.
Yeah.
What did you do like to start getting into the lending, like, whether it's getting the paperwork together or understanding deal structuring, like how did you get immersed in understanding the different types of hard money, or, maybe building those relationships with other people to say, hey, like, this is what I can help you with?
Yeah. What's funny is I kind of had a bad habit when I was wholesaling where I would spend a lot of time like being a go-giver, right? Helping people with stuff that I never got paid on, right? Or like the meetups, we didn't make any money from doing that for like 2 years. We did eventually get a pretty nice like JV deal that came directly from the meetup. But for a long time, I was building all these relationships that I couldn't monetize in really any capacity doing wholesale acquisitions, right? So then I kind of got into lending because the business partner that I partnered with on my first fix and flip was a hard money lender, and he did the loan for us on it. And so that's kind of how I got exposed to it. And initially, it was just all these people that I had helped like in the past 2 years that I really never made any kind of ask, was just hitting them up, telling them, hey, I'm lending on fix and flip stuff now. And sure enough, you reap what you sow, right? And so that was huge. Being in James Lascara's elite investor mindset group was huge. Almost all of my first loans were from people in the group. So that was really big. And then what's kind of funny is you're like, how did you learn like the paperwork and the different types of hard money? Like, dude, I didn't know any of that stuff. I just got into it and figured that stuff out later. Like I actually did my first, I've been doing my live stream for over a year now. My first one, I'd never done a loan. I don't even think I had received an application yet. And I was like, this is hard money.
Wow.
Make it, I guess.
So you're literally the fire and then aim, right? Just
sometimes
figure it out after, right?
Yeah. In this instance, usually I'm not, but in this instance, yeah, it was like, get into it. I know what a good deal looks like. And if I know what a good deal looks like, that's the most important part. Because if you got a good deal, the money follows it.
Yeah. Yeah. And for people out there, how does the hard money work? Like in terms of a deal? Like, I mean, there's people that are seasoned and that have been in this game that understand, and maybe it's a refresher for them, but for anybody that's new or just jumping in, like, what does it mean for people? Like why private money or hard money when it comes to this?
Yeah. So if you just take the word hard money, like why is it even called that? Well, it's because it's attached to a hard asset-based lending. Most people at some point in their life that are listening to the show have gone through the conventional lending process. And you know that it's all about you. It's all about your income. It's all about, hey, like, what did your W-2 and your taxes show for the last 2 years? What is your credit score right now? If it drops 10 points, that's going to matter. It's pretty much the exact opposite end of the spectrum when we're looking at, hey, we're giving you money for a very short period of time based off of 90% the deal being something that we like. Like hard money is usually 1 to 4 unit residential, hopefully not super rural, right? And something that has comparable sales. So we can determine, hey, what is this thing worth when you fix it up? And then a little bit, maybe 10% of the decision making is like, can we trust you as an operator on the deal? Do you have enough money to close? When people ask me like, hey, do I qualify? Most people think they wouldn't qualify. I'm like, look, there's really only 4 or 5 things that would ever disqualify you. Really, and this is just for me personally. Other people will qualify you on anything. Like Ryan McGinnis, bro. as long as you got the down payment and the deal's good, you're good. But for me, it's like, hey, I mean, if you don't have a background with financial crimes or something brutal like that, you've got enough money to close. Your credit's above 660, no mortgage lates. You got proof that you live in the US and you're not owner occupying. That's it for you as an individual. And then it's just about the deal.
Yeah. And for you, like what kind of deals, what fits your kind of criteria and buy box for getting into a deal? Cause like there's lots of people that are picking up deals and you probably get hit up all the time of like, hey, Jared, I got this, I got this, I got this. Like, how do you qualify what is good for a hard money deal?
Yeah, well, there's plenty of people picking up contracts. Deals, not as many. Full transparency, probably if 3 people called me up today saying they have a deal, I'm probably only going to like one of those 3 as like, I actually think you're going to win. I actually like this. So when it comes to qualifying, I'll go broad and then I'll bring it down to like me personally as an investor, because I do buy fix and flips myself. So broadly speaking, people sometimes mention like, oh, you're buying at a certain percentage of ARV. Like, to me, that's totally irrelevant. I don't really see why that matters. It's like, how much are you selling it for? And like how much money you're going to have left is your true net profit. Like after paying builder's risk and general liability insurance, after title fees. People always think title fees will be like $3,000 and it's usually like $7,000, right? So I have a really quick, like it takes me 60 seconds to underwrite a deal. You're buying it for this, reno's this, lender fees are this, title fees is this, holding costs, and then backside 6% fees. In Tampa, generally speaking, I want to see someone make net $40,000. And then I'm like, all right, you're around a deal, because if you project 40, you'll probably hit like 25, to be honest. Sometimes I occasionally see 6-figure flips from time to time, like maybe one to 2 a month I'll see.
Okay.
And then beyond that, it's like, hey, ideally you're not on a busy road, you're not commercial adjacent, all these types of factors, right? It's the same thing if you were a wholesaler, like, hey, your buyers aren't going to like that. Well, if you're the buyer and you bring it to me, I'm going to tell you, who really doesn't like that? The end buyer, because I've gotten feedback on stuff that I flipped, and believe me, people are picky, right? For me personally, I only like stuff that's like extremely straightforward. No, like I don't like to stack risks. So risks would be things like it's frame construction, there's commercial nearby, the comps are old, well or septic, not lot and block legal description. I don't personally know the wholesale, like I haven't already done business with the person doing a deal with me. Anything like that, I'm like, no. I don't want to get involved. It's too easy to lose money. So if it's very straightforward, cosmetic renovation, don't need to pull permits necessarily, right? Then I'm like, all right, I would offer on that. And like the numbers look good. So you can tell I'm a very biased towards, I just want to stick to lending,
Yeah, but you also you're doing a really good job of, you have boxes that need to be checked.
Correct.
Right. And I think that's extremely important in any business model. So a great example is probate's probate, but like I'm thinking of another niche that I get into, maybe like a quiet title here or there. It's like, it's the same principle. It's like, I even in any deal like that, I'm always cherry picking. same thing, right?
Yeah.
It's got to fit certain boxes, right? It's got to be the right spread on the deal. It's got to be the right costs involved. There's got to be the right timing, and it's got to be somebody you know that you've worked with or done a deal before, or you know, there's certain boxes. And I think what you're doing by mapping that out as not, you know, it's not just the real estate side, but that's a business strategy that people should implement no matter what it is they're doing, whether it's wholesaling, buy and hold, Airbnb, like, and how you even mapped out. I think the one important part that you that jumped out at me was you haven't worked with them before. If you haven't, like, that's the power. Like, I bet you would probably, I don't know, you tell me, it sounds like you would probably do it if you've met that person at your meetup, or you've seen them multiple times. They've talked to you. They talked about deals. It's like, yeah, you haven't done a deal with them, but at the same time, it's like, wait, I had that personal connection, you know? Right?
Yeah, 100%. That's honestly one of the biggest unspoken risks if people are breaking stuff down. Like, for instance, the first deal I lost money on, I didn't know the wholesalers at all. And you want to know what's really funny? They knew I lost a bunch of money, and then right after they were trying to send me more deals, and I was like, no, like, are you out of your minds? Like, you didn't have my best interests at heart. Like, you know, you pulled a fast one on a guy who was new, right? So now what I like about lending, it's like most of the people that I'm doing deals with, I funded them in the past. They came to my meetup, or they're in James Lascar's group with me, or whatever. Like, I've already seen them do business from afar. And like the one guy that he's my partner on the flip I just listed in Seminole. I was his lender on a house that burned down. And so I got to see, like, hey, how does this guy respond when his house burns to the ground? And that tells you a lot about how someone is. And I'll compare that to another deal that I'm in that I was the lender on. The folks brought in a partner that they didn't really know that well. They knew him from some like church group or something. Guy was like kind of uneasy getting into it. And of course, like 2 months into this thing, we're trying to modify the loan to get the original partner off. Like, they're both on title. They took title jointly. So it's just like all this disaster. And a lot of people, I even have people hit me up on Instagram that I've never talked to. Like, dude, can I give you 50 grand to do these deals? Like, no, because if I take your money, you're going to probably freak out because I don't know how you operate, and probably you're not that legit if you're just throwing money at me, right? So that's one of the most important things, man. Watching people from afar first, or like being connected in some way that you're not married, like date on some deals, then like you actually know how people are, because it's really only, it's like the top 10% of like quality of people that you really want to try to do business with. Most people you don't, honestly.
Yeah. And you're right. I mean, there's so much about what you said that's just true about doing deals with the people that you know. And you got to vet it, right? You got to qualify it and vet it, and try to build those relationships ahead of time so you know what's going on. And the other thing too that I thought was a great point was about the deal size too. How you're looking probably for that 40, because you know it'll end up being probably about that 25, 28 area. It's the same thing on deals that we see with probates. It's like, you know, you pick up a land deal for $2K and then you're assigning it out for $4K and it needs a probate. It's like not a deal. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Not a
You
deal.
gotta have 50% of ARV.
Yeah, you know, but if you pick up a deal you locked up for $5,000 and you're going to make $100K and there's, you know, 7 probates to do, it's like, yeah, that's a deal all day. Where do I find these people, right? So same thing for you. It's like, you know, how are you helping others get educated on the side of numbers? Because it really boils down to the numbers at the end of the day with these deals.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things that I've realized. So most people when they're flipping, for instance, if I sent you this listing of a house that I flipped and it's beautiful, you're probably instantly thinking like, man, this guy probably crushed it and made a bunch of money. A lot of times I see those houses and I'm like, they did not make any money.
Yeah.
So one of the things I have whenever I have an intro call, most people that before I talk to them about lending, I want them to schedule a time on my Calendly. There's you'll see in the footer my link tree. It's got it on there, but that's like where I can kind of get that first glance at someone, because I want to talk to you before you put something under contract and submit EMD, because those people you're kind of in a bad spot. But I send out an intro email. One of the things I include is a flipping calculator that I built, fully dummy proofed walkthrough video. I'm like, hey, when you look at these deals, I want you to underwrite it first. I'm giving you kind of the inside scoop on about what stuff costs, and then send it to me before you make an offer. And I'll be able to verify, like, no, you're way off on your reno, or here's what you're missing on your ARV. And then when people take the time to do that, they really crush it. Like, I have one client who I actually thought he was completely wasting my time at first. Like, one of those like Facebook posts, I want a hard money lender. I don't want any money down. I want you to fund all of it. And I call him. It's like, all right, credit needs work. You've never done a deal before. You're not in real estate. And I was like, oh man. All right, let me see. And sure enough, I'm out. He listened to me. And then next thing you know, he's done 3 deals and made money on all of them in his first year of real estate.
Wow.
So it's like, it's very attainable to succeed in this business if you are just patient, willing to learn, and use the resources that are literally free, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like we speak the same language and have sort of a same business model, because I do the intro calls too.
Yeah, there you go.
Any new person, like even if you had a probate, like for the first time, Jared, I'd say, hey, let's set up an intro call. Let's walk you through the systems and processes of how this flows, what to look for. So I love it, because it's not just like the deals that you're doing, it's your business model as well. Like that is so key to dial in on. Like, I'll do the intro calls. I'll give you our checklist. I'll walk you through it. You find these things, you qualify it. If it fits the boxes, you come back and then let's take a look at it. But what's also interesting is like your reaction to that post and that conversation. It's like, all right, let me take a chance. It's like, you just never know where things go. And it's like, even as long as you've been doing it and I've been doing it, we've been in this game, it's like, you still got to have that ear for, there's a chance. And as soon as you see that opportunity, you took it, and look, now you got a great relationship. It's moving forward. And this is just a fascinating way of looking at it that a lot of people don't do. And you're doing that. And the intro calls are huge. And then of course it's going to spawn into other deals that you get into. Jared, what would you say have been some of the challenges that you've seen with your industry, and what you face even with deals or with market conditions changing?
Yeah, that's a good question. And this will probably go above the heads of like some of the people listening, because if before I was in hard money, I didn't really understand that there were different types. Hard money lenders got their capital from different sources. There's actually different types. There's like professional private lenders, hard money lenders, kind of these local hard money lenders, and then just people like, retired dentists who lend money. So all of these different types of hard money lenders, but most of them are like the shop that I'm with, where most of the notes end up getting sold onto a secondary market, and we might pay 7% on our money and lend it at 10 to 12%. And so the challenges come in at like, everybody's kind of like trying to sell their notes for the most part to, some collection of the same companies on Wall Street. And so it's like any industry. If you went even 4 years in the past from now, you could charge 5 points, and a point is a percentage on the loan. So if I lent you 200,000, I could charge you a 10K fee. Be like, well, it's hard money. Like, no worries. That was 5 years ago. Now it's somewhat challenging to charge 2 points consistently. And so it's like any industry that has profit. Eventually profit attracts competition. Competition lowers prices, and then margins get slimmer. And then you see who actually has a good business model and who doesn't, right? So for a lot of shops, they've literally just like, it's kind of a thing in this industry where lenders will go out of business overnight. They just spread themselves too thin, completely ran out of money, and then they're done. For me personally, I would say the biggest challenge in this business in particular is that deals are so bang, bang. Someone gets something under contract, you might have 5 days to get it done. And they'll shop around. If it's someone who comes from my Instagram, usually they trust me and feel like they know me already. And they're like They trust a relationship. They see the value. If it's someone who's a referral, they're usually asking everyone for lenders, and they'll talk to 3 to 5 people. So the biggest challenge is that most people are willing to play the short-term game. Say what I need to say to get you to move forward. I play the long game. I don't pour honey in your ears, and I'm not going to take a discount to get one deal. I'm like, to our point earlier, I'd rather train up and coach my own clients than try to grab people who are existing at like, where I'm not making any money and doing a lot of work. So that's probably the biggest challenge, honestly.
Yeah. Well, no, that's great. I mean, it's great to hear that you're aware of what the challenge is, and I'm sure you work on it to try to overcome those things on a daily basis too. There's always going to be challenges in any industry. It's just whether you can navigate through that and also be able to try to explain that to potential clients or people that you work with as you go, if they understand it. And Jared, I will ask you this too, before I get into some of the social media brand and stuff that you get into. And maybe we touched on it, but how are you running your numbers on a deal top to bottom? Like what does that look like?
Yeah. So first things first, the last thing that you determine is purchase price. Okay. So a lot of people start at the wrong end of the deal. So they're like, all right, wholesaler wants me to buy this for 200. Can I make 200 work? Not the right way. You say, okay, does this deal even fit my buy box? If you've got a good tight buy box, it won't most of the time, and you won't even look at it. Okay. So if it's like the 20% of deals where it's like, all right, this fits my buy box, I'm going to underwrite it. You start by determining what you think the property is worth after it's all fixed up, right? So you're running your comps, you get all your numbers there, and then boom, you come to that number. And I do this regularly for my borrowers too, especially when they're newer. And I don't really trust their numbers, to be honest. I'll do a detailed breakdown of all the comps that I'm seeing, realtor links, all that kind of stuff. And so you start at ARV, and then you ask yourself, what is a realistic reno budget? So roughly speaking, if you're doing deals in Tampa Bay and it's 2025, new roof, probably 10K, AC, about 7. If you need to run ducting, call it 8. Electric, usually 3 to 5 grand. Plumbing, that can get really expensive, but you usually don't have to mess with it. And then cosmetics is, full cosmetics on your normal Tampa house is probably 50 to 60. And then some stuff that'll get expensive is like pool pavers, things like that. Landscaping is going to be 2 to 5 grand, depending on the price point. So you got all that. Now you've got ARV minus entry fees, which is going to be titles, usually 5 to 7 grand. Lender fees, usually around 5 grand, depending on the price point. So about 10K minus your ARV minus your rehab budget. Then you got to figure out holding costs. So if you're borrowing money, you got to pay that every month. A lot of people forget they're paying property taxes because they don't pay it per month. If you're paying property taxes, builder's risk and general liability insurance are super expensive right now. Like even hard to get a policy in Tampa, very difficult. So most people are paying over $1,000 a month in insurance right now, or close to it. And then I say 6 months holding costs on a normal flip, something more advanced, I'd underwrite at 8 to 9. And then you're like, hey, how much profit do I need to make minimum? And then you get your price. So you really have to reverse engineer it. And obviously it's one of those things where it's hard at first. You do it 100, 500 times, then it gets really easy.
Yeah. And you really broke it down.
Yeah.
It's a good way to break it down. I'm sure when Mike does the micro, he'll put graphics on that as you speak and say it. But it's a great way to break it down for people that are doing this. And sometimes it's a refresher for people that are doing these deals, that they forget about these little things and hidden costs that you forget about all the time. So
you'd be surprised. Like some people are very experienced, run their numbers, projecting much higher profits than I would. I'm like, well, you're forgetting about these costs. So yeah, it's a good refresher.
Yeah. No, it's great, Jared. Thank you for breaking that down. And one thing I've been really impressed with that you've been doing, and people are doing social media, they're pumping their brand out, they're creating awareness, and you're doing the education. Is you've really built that social media presence and side to your reels and Instagram. And I know one thing you like doing is building a social media brand and a real estate business with no cold calling or paid leads. How are you doing this? Like what kind of advice or tips would you give to people out there that want to get more into this? Because I hear about it all the time. Oh, I want to get into doing more of the social media. I want to do more of this to do brand awareness. How does it work for you?
Yeah, I think part of it, honestly, you have to be in the right business. So part of this is me being scarred from wholesaling, honestly, because I did nothing but cold call. I mean, honestly, like cold call and follow up, but it was pretty much all through phone call marketing for a long time. And I didn't know anything about hard money when I got into it. I had no idea how people found clients. So I actually, when I started, was like asking all the other loan officers at my same company, like, how do you find clients? How do you find clients? How do you find clients? And I got started on like some paid leads where this company sells the leads and like 15 lenders call the same lead. I was like, this is not how I want to spend my time, And the first question will ask, like, what terms do you offer? I'm like, what do you mean, dude? So initially I was like, I feel like, I mean, I was on Instagram a little bit before then and I had done some social media stuff. I liked it, but I never could make money from it. Like, am I going to make money posting educational stuff from sellers who don't want to learn anything? Probably not. And actually, some people like Jen and Joe do great on social media direct to seller. So you can do it. So the first thing you have to really make sure that your marketing strategy matches up with your business. So for me, it does, because I kind of like my differentiator that no other lender can compete with is there's a 99.9% chance I'm going to know more about flipping and know more about Tampa Bay market than any other lender you talk to. Like, that's my moat. There's no pricing that can get around that. There's no, like, that makes me different, and that's very hard to replicate, right? So I was like, if that's my differentiator, how do I show that? It's not by hitting cold calls. I have to be on Instagram pushing that out. And that's what I determined. I was like, this is how I'm going to do business, and I'm going to commit to it and figure out the systems to make this as low of time input as possible. Because if you don't have systems, and I'm sure you know what this is like, Al, if you don't have systems for social media, you could spend 20 to 30 hours a week on it, no problem. Trying to post every day.
Yeah. How about make videos, like batch recording? I mean, a lot of people think that, hey, I need to do videos, and they make one or two. It's always so funny. My producer, Mike and I, we joke all the time. When I first started making videos, we would be on the golf course or at the beach, and to just make one video, we would do like 20 takes. And, back then, we look back now, and Mike's like, yeah, can you imagine how many videos we could have made if we would have done batch recording back then? We could have cut out so much time. And so it's amazing what you see in the natural progression of building out systems and what that could have meant. Because back then, making 3 videos, we could have done 80 and been pumping things out. And then you got to post it. I mean, I was doing posting in the beginning as well. Like, I remember,
it's the worst, dude. It sucks.
No, it's crazy because it cuts out from time that you're doing. I remember Mike would send me the video, and then that same day I would post it and be like, "Oh my gosh, we're live!" Like, now we just got a system of posting. So, I think for people like that want to do it and get into it, you first of all, you gotta start like making those videos, right? Like, you gotta get out. You gotta have the content too. You gotta have something to talk about. Like, you actually are out in the field, like you're out in the scenes, like you're by the houses, you're doing things, and you're giving information, you're giving value. You're not self-promoting. And so if you're going to do it the right way, you got to give the value back and then build the structure and team to make it consistent. If you're not consistent with it, it's not going to last. And you're posting once a week or twice a week. So I think that's great. And a lot of people want to get into that kind of stuff, but you got, like you said, it's so important that, yeah, you want to do it, but you got to build out that process.
Yeah, to your point about learning, like it took me probably a full year. I'm at the point now where my stuff is dialed, like 2 weeks planned in advance, got a VA who does the posting, VA who does the editing. I never run out of ideas because I've got a system for that. I can one take most of my videos. So I'll bang out like 4 or 5 videos in 30 to 40 minutes, right? But yeah, it's tough. And one of the most common mistakes that I see people make is like, there's kind of two ways to do social media. You didn't have any money and social media was free. So you got great at social media and then you got the money. And then there's people who have the money, see that social media really works for some people, and they kind of just throw money at social media, but they're putting out garbage posts. Like that's a complete waste of time. Like they would never watch whatever they're putting out. And so there's kind of, you got to be careful about that. It's not just consistency, because people who have money but don't understand social, they know consistency, but they don't know quality content. So you need to marry both.
Yeah, love that point. Quality content for sure. I agree with you. I've seen some posts that really don't have any emphasis or meat to it, right? It's just kind of bare bone, but you got to actually like back it up with value, drive value and drive home, your information and how people can capitalize on something or how they can get more into it and go into depth with it. So that's really important. Well, Jared, this has been all great. I mean, real learning masterclass on hard money and what people need to know. And I think that's great for this episode. One thing I do towards the end of my show, I do a segment called signature questions. And, it's just a series of a couple questions that we haven't gone over with you. And we ask it in different ways. But Jared, for you in your business, what kinds of software do you leverage to succeed in your hard money lending or your deal structuring?
Yeah. Okay. Couple softwares. One, Monday. I like a lot as a CRM. The biggest downside, honestly, it's kind of hard to track your KPIs unless you get like the most expensive version. But overall, it's really, really nice. And you can segment stuff in a few ways. So I like Monday a lot. My editor uses Adobe Pro for all videos. I'm on Excel all the time. That's how I price out deals or like determine if deals are good or not. And then besides that, I don't know if you count Zillow and Realtor, but I use those all the time. And that would be 90% of the softwares I spend my time on.
That's great. I mean, any tips on, I've never actually heard of Monday. What is Monday?
Wow, that's funny because they spend a lot of money on ads. So Monday is, you can use it as either a CRM or kind of like a workspace. Hey, our task completed or not? But it's a really clean interface CRM. So I'm a fan. I think here's my honest opinion on Monday. I think that it was probably built by a guy who needed it for himself and paid a lot of attention. And my hunch is that it got sold off to private equity and then they kind of stopped paying attention to the details. Because there's some UX stuff that just kind of I don't love. But overall, it's really clean. I know a lot of entrepreneurs that use that in their business.
Yeah, never heard of that one, but maybe people have. I haven't. So, Jared, that's great. That's great to know. There's different software out there, and especially things like Zillow, right?
Yeah. Have you heard of Zillow? It's this new crazy software. You can just see, like, you don't have to be a realtor. You can see what stuff sold for. It's crazy.
Can you imagine? I was like, I've never heard of Zillow. So, Jared, one thing that I think is really important for entrepreneurs is to build a routine for themselves in their business. And when I feel like when you stick to your routine, you become a better performer, higher performer at your business, and you're able to scale it out and just be a machine with what you do.
Yeah.
What does your routine look like in terms of your day and your business to make sure you're performing at a high level?
Yeah, dude, that is a great point. Because it's true, 100%. If I crush my routine, like I'm a beast, dude. I had a couple of days this week where I crushed my routine and I was honestly like, I was on fire, right? And honestly, for me, if I don't get a full 8 hours of sleep, I'm not the same. So I'm going to bed 9:30 or 10 at night. And then first thing I do when I wake up, my dog goes for a walk every single morning. And then I usually am listening to either a Christian book or just the Bible directly. And that's my quiet morning time. If I miss that, it really affects my day. Then after that, I'm eating breakfast, spending time in prayer, cleaning myself up a little bit, and then I'll hit the gym. Usually that's like 7:30, 8 o'clock. So I'm there kind of late, but the gym empties out a little bit around then. So a lot of times I'm starting my day behind my desk between 9 and 10 a.m. But I've got all of my stuff sorted out for the day. And then when I hop on my computer, the first thing I do is I check my daily goal tracker and I update all my daily habits. And that feeds into my quarterly goals, which feed into my annual goals. So that's been huge for me, because if you don't do that, you'll forget what you wanted to accomplish and you won't realize you're behind. And yeah, then from there, I'm just into lending, working on active files, then my hot leads, and then my high follow-ups. And then I run Instagram ads now as well. So got to stay on Instagram messages.
Yeah, no, that's a great detailed insight into how you do it for you. And I'm sure there's other people out there that would resonate or relate to that, because you can if you have that routine dialed in and there's that one thing that doesn't happen in that routine, it could really reset the tone and pace of how your day goes.
Yeah.
And I think as being an entrepreneur, we have to have those things dialed in. Like, we become creatures of habit when it comes to our beginning stage. Like, how you do it in the beginning of the day translates to the rest of the day.
Yep.
And I know what it's like, and I know you know what it's like too, to start early in the morning and just get it going and get your routine down. And that's great. So I feel like there's just so many things that you and I probably relate to on these levels between intro calls and routine. Like, it's all there.
There we go. Hey, same beast, different industry, right?
Same different industry, but yeah, same beast. Jared, so one thing that I think a lot of people always hear in the back of their mind is that one piece of advice that they heard at one point. It really sticks with them, right? Like, they heard it, somebody say it, and from then on, it was like a pillar in how they translated into everything. What is that one piece of advice that you heard that really changed everything or set the tone for where you are today?
Yeah, if I had to dial it into one, the one that comes to mind was one I heard in college when I first started getting interested in real estate investing. And, Brandon Turner was still the face of Bigger Pockets. It was just that how you do anything is how you do everything. And so whenever you do literally like the smallest of tasks, to even like, walking my dog, making sure I do that right, that really does correspond to your output in everything. So the details matter a lot. And that would be the one piece of advice that kind of is something that I think about regularly.
Yeah, how you do anything is how you do everything, right? Yes. It's so true. Like, it's your patterns. It's the way you say things. Are you going to hold your word? It's it's just how you do it, right? It's are you going to follow through with what you do? And there's so many instances of things that you probably have seen and I've seen where you can just see it from afar of people and what they do. And it's like, well, if they're going to do that, they're just going to keep doing it a certain way. And it's like, that's not the best fit. Right. It comes down to having a great fit. So I think that's a great answer for you and the advice that you heard early on. Jared, where can people find you, and also plug the meetup that you do with Nick Camrata? Because I think that is fantastic.
Yeah, I was going to say the better question is like, where can't you find me? I'm pretty active, man. Where I hang out the most is Instagram. So you can see in the footer, Jared does hard money. You'll never forget what I do. And then you can find me on Facebook as well. You can always text me. Number's 906-362-1801. And then in regards to our meetup, so Nick Camrata and I, actually when I was working for Nick, this was post-COVID, and there wasn't really a lot of meetups that weren't like kind of the old head TV, RII, whatever meetups. So we wanted to get together people and literally just make the focus everyone in the room get to know each other so that we can do deals. And so we've been running that for a couple years now. And we're right in Tampa every quarter, north of downtown, bringing in great guests like yours truly, Al Nicoletti, and really making the emphasis on we want everyone to connect, because every single real estate deal, you might not see it, but there's probably about 50 people involved, top to bottom, start to finish on a deal, if not more. So this is a game where you need to have a lot of connections if you want to have success, and you have to meet them somehow, right? So that's what our meetup's all about. It's Tampa Bay Investors Initiative. You can look it up on Eventbrite. If you go to my link tree, you'll see it there. I think you can find it right from my Instagram as well.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to ask you was, running a meetup's a big thing, right? Where it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of resources, and there's a special pizzazz to having a meetup, right? When you can bring people from the local community. When you first started that up, what were you guys thinking? Like, we want to have a meetup, but like, what was the why? Like, what was that purpose behind why you wanted that meetup, and the relationship building that you guys wanted to do and have there?
Yeah, this really all ties back to me being sick of cold calling. I was like trying to find ways that I could bring deals to Nick without having to pick up the phone. I was like, dude, we should just do a meetup. I was like, maybe this can get me out of calling people all the time. So that was like selfishly my original ambition. But I've also, I've always been very extroverted and always been drawn to a mic. So for me, it was like, hey, if I'm not invited on stage, I guess I'll just build my own type of thing. And for Nick, he isn't the type of guy who wants to hold the mic in front of a crowd most of the time, right? And so we were like, well, this would be cool, and hopefully we get to do a bunch of deals. And from that, I've honestly, from people who've gone to my meetup, have a lot of good friends, ended up doing business with a lot of people there, and like not in ways that you'd expect, right? So the original inspiration was just how do we get deals without picking up the phone? And it turned into more of a lot of good friendships, community, honestly, getting to meet up with a lot of people I'm friends with, but I'm too busy to regularly do. It's like, all right, I'll at least see you once a quarter,
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the core elements to when I first started the podcast was to bring on people that were meetup leaders, community leaders, because I say that always in my intro. And I feel like I finally have gotten to that point when I'm meeting the ones that are running the meetups, right? Like I finally have had those on. If anybody's interested in running a meetup, what would you say have been some of the best practices of hosting a community and running a community like you and Nick do?
Yeah, that's good. So there's a couple things. One of the hardest things to figure out is the venue. We tried quite a few venues. You went to Red Door number 5, I think it's called, with us there. And it's actually, maybe it's different in other cities. In Tampa, there's really only a handful of spots. And once you get into the space, you'll find like there's a lot of negative things about certain venue spaces, and it's pretty difficult to work with management. So that's the one thing. Figuring out the venue is a challenge, but if you get the right venue and they're supportive, like it can be pretty sweet. And venues are a lot more expensive than you'd think. That also I found out. So getting the venues dialed in, and then for me personally, I am not a fan of like really long presentations at meetups. It's kind of hilarious. It's like, okay, so all this knowledge that we're sharing right now, like people are watching this from their couch. So I'm like, why would we do the same thing when we're making people drive to our meetup in traffic? I'm like, some presentation, some speaker, somebody to get the crowd excited and like be able to push leads towards your guest is really big. But I kind of like to make it kind of a 15 to 20 minute teaser, like, hey, here's information. This is something you should learn about. And when you find a deal, just talk to this person. This is your who. But it doesn't need to be a half hour to hour long. Like you could look this up on YouTube. So those would be the two things for me. Figuring out the venue and spending a lot of time before you marry a venue, figuring that out. And then if it's a meetup, remember that the core focus is people meeting each other. So you have to really be intentional about speaker time. And then if you just get people into a room, they'll only talk to people they already know. So you have to figure out a way to get people comfortable talking to new people.
Yeah, love that. Yeah, you got to get people talking to new people because they could always show up to see the same people. Everybody's talking to each other. It's like you got to bring in the new people. And like you said about the venue, I've definitely seen some meetups in the past. Just the venue and the parking's just terrible.
Oh, dude, parking is. I've only really ever found one place with good parking. I'll be real, one or two, I guess. Parking is so hard because if it's a nice location, that almost always means parking is limited.
So you got to find something right in the middle. It's like
exactly
not the worst, but not the best. It's right in the middle, and it's like not out of the way, but it's yeah.
That's our place now. It's just north of downtown. It's not in like the coolest neighborhood ever, but it's like pretty good location and then tons of parking. So it's pretty sweet.
Yeah. Well, that's great, Jared. And I encourage people that are in that area to check out Jared and Nick Camrata's event that's happening. I think it's like quarterly, right? You guys do a quarterly meetup. Check it out, the Tampa Bay Investors Initiative meetup. I've spoken there once before. I'll be back in October. It's going to be a lot of fun. And like Jared said, I know firsthand, Jared doesn't want the long presentation.
Dude, I know you showed up. You're like, wait, this is a 20-minute thing? All right, we're getting into the meat and potatoes.
I remember I was like, wait a second, how long is this? You're like 10 to 15 minutes. I was like, oh, I better cut out all of these slides right now.
Yeah, that's funny.
So it's great that you have something different. And I think that's what people should strive for when either having a meetup or going to a meetup, find something different and check them out. Jared, this has been so much fun. I'm so glad we got to sit down and talk and chat. Like we never really had that time to like do something.
We haven't.
I know. We need to. We need to like just hang and when I'm over in St. Pete and Tampa for the meetup whenever I'm there. So that'll be fun. But Jared, as I do at the end of my episodes, I do a segment called Final Words, Final Thoughts. Any lasting impressions you want to give the audience for everybody out there? So as I do Final Words, Final Thoughts, Jared Prevost.
Final words and final thoughts, because we're going to probably have some people interested in fix and flip listening in. You're not ready to do a deal until you can tell it's a deal in under 5 minutes for sure, ideally less than 2 minutes.
Boom. Love it.
Yeah. Nice and concise.
Nice and concise. But Jared, got to say, thanks again, man. This has been great. Love what you're doing. Love seeing you out there on the social media pages, and keep crushing it out in the community. And of course, shout out to our guy, Nick Camrata, as well, for being that partner in crime with you for the meetups and deals. And you guys are great and love it. So Jared, thanks so much again for coming on the show and taking your time. And I will see you soon, brother, in Tampa and St. Pete.
Let's go. See you soon. Thank you very much, Al.
You too, man. You take care.
All right. Peace.
All right, everybody. Another episode in the books with Jared Prevost right there, talking about hard money lending. It's been a while since we've had somebody talk about hard money and lending at all. So lots of gems and tips right there for people to pick up on. If you missed any of that episode with Jared, go back to the beginning, rewind, check it out, and scan the QR code at the bottom of the screen. You're going to find all of our content from season 1 through 6, because we're rolling through 6. And it's another one in the books for the Al Nicoletti Show. I will see you all next Wednesday night. Have a great night, everybody. Take care.